Okay, but I'm here. You did a great job. Your part's done. And now it's our
UFC Fight Pass presents Extra Rounds, live from the Fight Pass studios in Southern California. Here's your host, TJ DeSantis. Extra Rounds.
It is Extra Rounds here from UFC Fight Pass, and we are live just after UFC 283. A new champion has been crowned. His name is Jamal Hill, and he gets past Glover Teixeira tonight, winning a pretty handed and one-sided dominant decision. Here to break it down with me, the man, the myth, the legend. You know him as Ray Longo. He's back here in 2023. Ray, how are you?
Very good, man. What a great fight and what a great career for Glover Teixeira. Everybody's favorite guy. Class act all the way around. Went out on his shield. Just, I think he summed it up. He might be too tough for his own good at 43. He's definitely the baddest guy I know at 43, by far.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I think we end up burying the lead because tonight it is all about Jamal Hill. He's the new UFC light heavyweight champion, but it's hard not to celebrate the career that is Glover Teixeira's. And, this is a guy that should have realized a UFC championship literally 20 years ago, but visa issues kept him away from the octagon. He was fighting out in Lemoore, California for the longest time in the WEC, and, it's weird to think that all of this almost didn't happen for Glover for a variety of reasons. And while tonight was a loss, it was a win in so many ways.
Oh, without a doubt. There's, look, I didn't want to see him take that type of damage because of his age, but it's a win in 100 different reasons. I think he proved something tonight that, he was still able to compete with a really, really young, hard-hitting guy. I mean, I don't know how he even survived that, and look, Jamal Hill, again, great fight. Like you said, you don't want to bury that story because it's Glover, but man, I just hope Glover, he's happy. He said he was happy with going and training Pereira, and I just hope he's happy in Connecticut and he has a great coaching career.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you hope that Glover can remain true. I think he's a guy that, should remain true to being retired. But, I mean, he's a gamer, man. We're going to talk about Lauren Murphy here in a little bit, but there were some similarities between Lauren Murphy and Glover Teixeira tonight, and Glover actually articulated this, am I just too tough for my own good?
Yes.
That is a really tough situation to be in because, A, in your heart of heart, you don't want anyone to take away your opportunity to fight for a championship. But on top of that, the referees, the corner, the doctor, they all feel like maybe their hands are forced to try to make that decision and pull the trigger to pull you out of a fight. But, when it's Glover Teixeira's last fight, you kind of think in hindsight, I'm happy it wasn't stopped between the fourth and fifth round.
Right. But the doctor's job is there to protect you. And,
right.
There should be no hesitation if you're a doctor and you hesitate, and that's not the job for you. But, it's funny. I had texted John during the Glover fight. I'm like, nobody's basically, I didn't say it like this, but nobody's screaming for this fight to be stopped. He's already taken triple the damage of Murphy. And look, and it was just to provoke a conversation. It wasn't, I like seeing guys go out on their shield. So I'm not an early stoppage guy, but I am becoming more and more, because of some of the repercussions after the fight game's over. But, he took big shots from a big guy that could hit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's different, man. You have two bicycles crash. It's not that bad. Two Mack trucks crash. It's horrible. Right. So it's not, those were big shots, man. But, again, I'm glad he finished too. He proved the point. But the discussion kind of is, you still felt Glover could have won that fight right down to the last second. Right? That's what's keeping you in there.
Right.
And Lauren Murphy, how the hell is she going to win? right?
Right,
That
yeah.
was the thing. So it's hard to say that, but I think that was my point of the thing. You can't say one and not talk about the other.
Right.
But that's really the reason, is that why see Lauren take the damage if you could. But who's going to make that decision? You sum up that, look at the third round. It's a 1 in 10,000.
Right.
So let's come back and fight another day.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. There's a fine line between surviving and intelligent defense. And that's what the referee is supposed to, base his sort of analysis on. Are you intelligently defending yourself? But also, do you have a realistic opportunity of being competitive? Because I think being competitive, if the fight continues, is also a bit of a criteria. Because if you're just going to take punishment because you don't have the ability to win, why are you really even fighting at this point?
Listen, DJ, you're hitting on it's a great point. And the idea of can you compete? I think that's more important.
Right.
How many fights have we seen? Like, who was the guy O'Malley beat the crap out of, that kid from Boston? Remember they brought him in?
Chris Patino.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, what do you have to see for that? The kid had no chance.
Right.
Why? Why'd you have to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I can come up with 10 other fights like that. The guy's not going to win.
Right. And for Matinho, who's still an active fighter today, are you compromising the future of his career to maybe rely on that heart in, say, a championship fight if he gets there?
Yeah. Look, I don't want to be the guy to make those decisions, but as an outsider, when you're looking in, they're really easy to make. I mean, it's, I don't know. Where are we going, TJ?
Well, I mean, let's talk about Jamal Hill, because Jamal Hill, it's his time now. He gets the win. 8 fights into his UFC run, the first graduate of the Dana White Contender Series to get a UFC title wrapped around their waist. Again, I don't want to bury the lead. A lot belongs to Glover Teixeira, but right now, if you're going to try to capture that UFC light heavyweight championship, you got to go through Jamal Hill. Yeah, Jamal Hill. I mean, look, pitched a shutout, landed huge shots, really conserved his energy well. Even when he had Glover hurt, he was putting the pressure on, but not totally gassing himself out. He won a couple of scrambles. He survived on the floor. Great fight, and he earned that, man. And I see a lot of potential for him. I really do. I think this kid's really good, and I think he proved it tonight. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think, Glover Teixeira is one of those guys that, even if he didn't have the career that he had, he's a guy, Ray, that when you beat, you just never really look as good as you can beating someone like Glover. Not that Jamal Hill didn't look good tonight, because he looked great. It was one-sided. But Glover's a guy that he just lasts a little bit longer, so you start to wonder, okay, should he be put away? Should Jamal Hill have the ability to put him away? But no one really ever put away Glover Teixeira. Right. But that's what I loved about Jamal Hill. He never got frustrated. Some guys would get frustrated. That frustration causes, your energy to dwindle. He stayed calm and cool as a cucumber, picked his shots. When he had to pick it up, he picked it up. But if he saw the guy wasn't going out, he threw hard shots, but still maintained his energy. I thought he did a great job. I mean, if there was anything, there were a couple of times, I think, just his footwork, he could have moved a little quicker. I think he would have avoided some of the stuff. But besides that, just a great fight for Jamal Hill. Yeah, no, 100%. And, solid stuff for him. He's the new UFC light heavyweight champion. I guess it's Magomed Ankalaev next, who, in a lot of people's minds beat Jan Blachowicz last month and didn't get the belt. So you already have a number one contender. I mean, this is one thing that I think is really good. It was unfortunate that we got a split draw last month, but now the UFC, 45 days later or whatever, has not only a new champion, but pretty much a number one contender as well. Yeah, and I like the Ankalaev and Hill fight. I think that's a great fight. I'd be at this point. I would make Hill the favorite if I had to pick right now. I think this was a great growing fight for him. Now he knows he could do 5 rounds. His cardio seemed to have lasted, so he's on the right track with his training. And that I'd love to see that fight. That's a great fight. Well, I don't think anybody necessarily needs to see a fourth fight between Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. Some might say, and if they do say, they're Brazilian, because there were some Brazilians that were unhappy tonight. But your thoughts on this? I mean, unprecedented fourth time that two athletes meet in the octagon the way that these two have. Brandon Moreno largely gets the last laugh, but I'm curious, Ray, is it a bit at the expense of Moreno's, quality because, there was some question about that eye poke. It really wasn't an eye poke upon further analysis, but it did seem like people in the arena thought that Moreno was getting a cheap win.
Imagine if it was an eye poke, though, and they have to do a fifth fight. That would have been crazy. No, he got hit with a very long left hook, but then the fingers. See, I couldn't see. If anything went in his eye, it would have had to been a thumb on the other side. So
right.
I couldn't see that. Everybody said it wasn't, but nothing I could see from the replay. So I hope they're right, because I thought Moreno was fighting a great fight. I love the way he put the wrestling in right at the beginning. That was just some guys just match up like that. It's like Gotti and Ward. They're always going to be in a great fight. And these guys could fight another 5 times, and I think I'd watch it. That's how, it's good. But Moreno was the guy that made the adjustments tonight.
Yeah.
And he, wanted to put an exclamation point. I had him up in the fight before that, but he looked focused. And after he said he didn't fight with emotion, you could see it. There were a couple of times in the first couple of fights, or whichever ones it were, that he just swinging crazy. So
yeah,
he was calm, patient, relaxed, fight IQ on point tonight. Really, really good stuff from Moreno.
And I think, we've seen champions versus interim champions, a lot in the UFC's history. These things do happen. But I don't know if we've ever seen a battle between 1A and 1B quite like these two, because I think that they're just the best that it gets at 125 pounds. But, now Figueiredo moving up to bantamweight. I mean, he's always had a hard time cutting to 25, but what are your thoughts on him at 135?
Look, he's a talented guy. If the weight cut's killing him, he's not going to be a big guy at 35, and that's a really stacked division. So I could see him kind of going the way of Henan Barao in the last couple of years.
Okay,
so
I mean? Making that move and just starting to fade away a little bit.
Yeah, it's not like he's huge, so
right.
But he'll get maybe a couple of fights, but I don't think he can compete with those other guys.
Yeah. It's interesting. We talk about, athletes moving weight and changing weight classes later in their career. Not many people can do it like Jose Aldo. And Aldo's a guy who got some recognition tonight going into the UFC Hall of Fame. Your thoughts on the career of the King of Rio?
Yeah, listen, man, again, I mean, the first guy to really terrorize you with knees and kicks and great takedown defense and beautiful boxing. And he was a savage. That's why I say that's why I like when guys retire at the right point, because that's what you remember him for, So what could you say about the guy? Trailblazer for the little guys. He was fighting at a time when the UFC didn't have a 45 or 35, right?
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, there was a time right before Aldo showed up at 45 that there wasn't even a 55 in the UFC.
I'm trying to think. I don't think there was a 55.
I feel like there was a 55 division when the UFC brought in the WEC.
At that point there had to be, because they were bringing in the little guys.
Right. But when they started the WEC, you might be right, Ray. They might not have had it was right around that same time, because Sean Sherk beat Kenny Flory in October 2006, and I think they started the WEC or bought the WEC early 2007.
Wow.
So that's why I have a job here on UFC Fight Pass. Right?
Oh, that's good. I need you for those facts.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
I remember back in the day, I was actually working for an MMA website, and none of these fights, these early fights, these prelims were on television, so we had to do play-by-play on the phone. And I had a T-Mobile sidekick, and I'm trying to frantically post about Jose Aldo's low kicks against Pequeno Nogueira in his WEC debut, and it was hard.
Yeah, that's right. He was a savage, and he definitely earned that Hall of Fame spot.
No, 100%. It was a night of sort of bittersweet emotions for some Brazilians. We celebrate the career of Jose Aldo, but also sort of turn our attention to Shogun, who lost tonight as well. It's his final fight, so Glover and Shogun go off together and leave their gloves in the octagon. I mean, honestly, if people aren't on top of UFC Fight Pass, I implore you to go watch early Shogun Rua fights.
Without a doubt, it's worth it just for that. Yeah, I'm always different on this one, man. I don't want to see the guy go out like that. I wish they would have just did a thing like they did for Jose Aldo and have his retirement like that. I think it's much better. Or if you're going to have one final fight, you should at least be the favorite by the odds makers.
Right.
You want your final fight, you're the underdog. Like, I don't know. Like, what's the point of that fight?
I mean, I think it's giving a legend what they want, essentially. And maybe that's not always the right thing to do, you know?
Right.
If
they give him what he wants, he should have had a very winnable fight.
Right. Well, but I also think the fear, too, is you get these guys out there and they win. If they do so in a way that sort of bolsters their confidence, then they don't want to stop. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say that, but it's like you get your hand raised and, these are athletes that chase that buzz, that high, that adrenaline.
Yeah. And that's why you got to really admire what Glover did tonight. I really, he went out a warrior. He took his lumps, but man, he had his moments. I know even watching the fight, I'm going, he's going to submit him. Like, it was a great fight. So that worked out really well. And he was smart enough to say, I'm getting the hell out of here. But for the other guys, I don't know. I mean, TJ, I just think when you get older, I mean, there's not going to be like a medical doctor with a conscience that's going to tell you getting any hits to the head like that at that age are good.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
no, I'm with you. I'm being a devil's advocate. I'm not really.
Well, I hear you, Ray, but I don't think I think you have good points everywhere. But this is the issue. The longer you're around this fight game, and the longer you're just around in life, you start to realize what life in general does to you as you get older, let alone life in combat sports. Oh. And, any unnecessary shots, I mean, it's one of those things we celebrate guys. It's like, I hate to say this, but like being celebrated for your chin or your durability, it's the worst compliment to get in combat sports. And unfortunately, towards the tail end of some of these legends' careers, we're talking about how durable they are. They won't go away. It's like, okay, I don't want to talk about that necessarily, but definitely don't need to give backhanded compliments to Gilbert Burns, victorious tonight in devastating fashion. Just steamrolls through Neil Magny. Magny's a tough out, man. He's not where he was a few years ago when he was on that long string of wins, but for Gilbert Burns to just sort of run roughshod through him and then, call out Colby Covington, I mean, Gilbert's a guy that, yes, he's had his chances at a welterweight championship, but tonight he handled Neil Magny and still really proved that despite being a guy who's had success at lightweight and has come up short at welterweight, this still is the weight class he belongs in.
Yeah. Again, you said it. The other guy, Magny's not a tough out, but look, he said he was going to finish him inside of 10. He knew he had to do that, and he went out and did it, and he backed up what he said, and he did it, convincing manner.
What do you think about Gilbert Burns' future here? I mean, he calls out Colby Covington. Is that the fight that makes sense? I think it does.
Yeah, I think it's a good fight. And those Florida guys down there, they have that beef, so I think it brings that intensity with it, which is always fun to watch, because guys get carried away and sometimes they fight outside themselves. But I think that's a great fight.
What do you, do you see another title opportunity in the future for Gilbert Burns if he gets past Covington and does so with style points? Can he try to get to a title here before the year's over or early next year?
I think that's a possibility. I could see that. He gets another 2 wins. He's in there, maybe even another win. Give him if he does if he beats Covington, I think that earns him a shot.
Because I think he's 5-2 now at welterweight. The lone losses to Khamzat Chimaev and Kamaru Usman in the championship fight. I mean, those aren't losses to really sort of reassess your career on. Those are really tough outs.
And I'll tell you that the Khamzat fight was unbelievable.
Yeah,
that fight was. I'm not going to say that was a close fight. I think he was coming back at the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, definitely was. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that tends to get stronger as fights go on, too.
Yeah.
He definitely did that. Let's talk about Lauren Murphy a little bit. I thought that her corner probably should have stepped in and saved her. She was, pulling that sort of being too tough for her own good against Jessica Andrade. Andrade gets her hand raised. And then, calls out Zhang Wei Li, who she's, fought and lost against at strawweight. She was fighting as a flyweight tonight. What are your thoughts on Andrade's demand for a title fight in a different weight class, despite, fighting at flyweight tonight?
Interesting, I guess. But I got to tell you, I think Andrade deserves it. She's beaten a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
I mean, even she beat Caitlin Chikagian, who's that's not an easy out.
No.
She's beaten the top girls. I say you give it a shot. And they only fought once, right?
I believe so, yeah.
I think that's a really good fight. I think that's a good fight, and I agree with her. Weili should have to come back to a Brazilian fighter.
I mean, that is one thing that she called out, and I can't stress enough what it's like to, go to a different part of the world just to travel and experience
it. Can't even imagine it.
Right.
Can't imagine
let alone to go and fight and defend your title. I think it was her first title defense even.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, you owe that girl something for sure. And she keeps winning, and she looks good, and she's going to bring it. She's always that's always going to be an exciting fight. Yeah, I'm saying I would make that fight. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I don't want to say that it was a fluke win for Zhang Weili because it wasn't, but she just blitzed Andrade, and
right.
when you don't have a moment to really take one step forward when you're already having to take 75 steps backwards, it's very difficult.
Yeah,
difficult. So
I agree with you.
Let's talk about the Brazilian Johnny Walker. He gets it done. He defeats Paul Craig tonight. I can't say Paul Craig like John Anik does. I mean, he really gets that Scottish accent on it. But
I think it's the pronunciation king. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I'm gonna debate some of his pronunciations. I don't think all of them are like. It's Melbourne. It's not Melbourne unless you're Australian. Okay, it's Melbourne. It's not Melbourne. It's Melbourne.
Wow.
But he says Melbourne. No, you don't put on an accent for one word. I'm just saying. And maybe I'm saying it for Paul Craig as well. But Paul Craig. Unable to get past Johnny Walker tonight. Johnny Walker doing that worm celebration again. Like, man, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like, Johnny Walker, what are you doing with that shoulder surgery issue or injury in the past, doing the same celebration dance? It worries me, Ray.
Oh, wow. Well, first, was that? I think that was his first win in Brazil.
Yeah.
Am I correct with that?
I think so. But the bottom line is, like, if you've dislocated your shoulder doing the worm, don't do the worm again.
These guys, TJ, there's a lot of testosterone flying around. They can't control themselves.
You couldn't give me enough testosterone to get on the dance floor, Ray. I'm just saying. I could never.
You take that. You get on. Not that I know because I'm not on it, but I say you go on it. You're on the dance floor.
All right. I mean, let's do it. Let's do it for show purposes, show prep or something.
Yeah.
We can break the law if we're doing it for show reasons.
But we ain't breaking. That's not breaking the law.
No. I don't know if you broke the bank tonight. I got your fight picks. Let's take a look at them. We're looking at our fight picks all year long here on Extra Rounds, and I did not do very good at all. I got one wrong. I got two wrong. I guess I got three right. So let's see what you did. You got Hill right. You got Moreno right. You got Burns right. You got Andrade right. So you went 4 for 5. Not bad.
Yeah.
Producer Steve Coyne. He got all of them.
Good job. Wow.
Good job, Steve. And Frankie Redzepi, he went 0 for 1, 1 for 1. He went 4 and 1. So
yeah.
Apparently the producers of this show, Ray, are better than the actual on-air talent.
Well, one guy did good, and I'll tell you, yeah, that was good. Very good. Congrats to that guy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, congrats to that guy.
I was at the gym today, and I was leaning towards Walker, and they convinced me that the other guy's going to submit him, and I blew it right at the end.
I mean, I thought that's what was going to happen, but no, not the case. Not the case. So, how tired are you right now, Ray? It's late over there on the West Coast.
I'm good. What do we got? What else do we have?
Let's take a look real quick at the odds, courtesy of DraftKings. This was a strange night, Ray. There was not a lot of movement. So just take a look at everything here. Glover Teixeira opens up as a plus 120 underdog, and he was the only movement all night long. We get to our actual closing odds. He went up $5 in the way of underdogs. Everybody else stayed the same, which never really happens in odds, but is one of those nights. DraftKings Sportsbook is the official sportsbook of UFC with same-game parlays, championship futures, and more. There's no other place better to bet on UFC than DraftKings. Download the app, sign up with promo code Fight Pass, and get in on the UFC betting action today. They've got these futures up right now, Ray, where you can actually bet on who's going to be the UFC champion by the end of the year.
Wow.
And like John Jones is a plus 120 underdog. So
what are you talking? I'm not allowed to bet. Like, you can't talk.
No, I'm not. I'm talking to our listeners right now. Our listeners.
I was gonna say nothing's moving because they cleared up the gambling problem.
Yeah, no. I mean, hey.
I thought that's where you were going with that.
Hey,
This is the first time nothing's moved. I'm like, wow.
I might have said that off the air, but you're risque enough to say it on the air. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
One final thing to hit before we get out of here, Ray.
Yeah.
ADCC is coming to UFC Fight Pass. It is the supreme submission grappling event in the world, and UFC Fight Pass is your exclusive home for ADCC Open tournaments, the worldwide trials, and the big one, ADCC 2024. The championship will go down live and exclusive next year on UFC Fight Pass. I'm incredibly excited for that. I call some jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu might be my favorite sport to actually commentate, Ray.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because it's sometimes it's a quick sprint. We get submissions quicker than you can get knockouts sometimes. But the build-up, the grind, the story that unfolds. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a mixed martial arts shootout, but when you get flowing jiu-jitsu and back and forth, ebb and flow, you can tell more of a story sometimes.
Wow, I like the fighting.
Well, jiu-jitsu's fighting. Combat jiu-jitsu.
I like in the middle. They have a couple of those jiu-jitsu tournaments with open hands. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
too.
That's my favorite kind of jiu-jitsu to
yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. How would you have done back in the day in combat jiu-jitsu?
No, it was never my thing.
No? Okay.
No. If it was for like 6 months. No, I was there at the beginning, and I got my blue belt. That was it,
Hey, that's better than I got, Ray. I thought I was a blue belt, and then I rolled with the blue belt and found out I was not a blue belt.
Yeah, no, it was good. That was, TJ, back then it was a great period because a lot of Brazilians would come in, they'd stay with Matt, and it was like before, there's no, I'm going to say it's not even an internet at that point. But that was a great period of time, man. Just, because if you weren't in Brazil, you probably weren't doing jiu-jitsu unless you were out in California with the Gracies. But
is that how you remember parts of your life? There was or wasn't an internet then?
No, you know what? Not really, because I don't know what year that did start. But when did we get going with all the chat rooms and shit like that?
Like 94 is really when when the rich people started to have computers in their house.
Wow,
94. Wow. I didn't get online until like 2000.
Okay, that sounds more reasonable.
Right, and I didn't learn how to type until like 2010. You know what I mean?
We gotta. Has that changed?
No, now I just use Siri. I'm like, call Ray Longo or text Ray Longo.
I love it.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, Ray.
Love it.
When you get old like me.
Yeah, I get it.
Right, I think I'm 35 years younger than you, but I'm older than you probably, Ray. One way or another. All right, Ray, I'm gonna let you get out of here.
All right, my man.
Thank you.
A great night of fights and great chatting with you.
Always. We'll do it again soon.
I'll talk to you. Take it easy, buddy.
There he is, Ray Longo, kind enough to join me here on Extra Rounds. He joins me pretty much every fight night. Unfortunately for Ray, sometimes it gets late, and it's kind of late. We are not quite done yet. A couple more things to hit before we get out of here. So I got to hit this, and I got to hit that, and I'll talk to you one more time before we get out of here. It's Extra Rounds on UFC Fight Pass.
I'd been preparing for all or nothing situations my whole life. I wanted to win the Olympics, and I failed. I went to the World Championships, and I failed. But when I started fighting, I knew this was the time that it was all going to go right. I was led by fate and destiny that whole time. Everybody else started to realize it, too.
Do you know how many women are changing the way they look at what's possible because of this woman?
It was the embodiment of an idea whose time had come.
Mark Schultz was the best wrestler to ever step foot in the octagon, but there was also his brother Dave. They were rock stars. So John E. DuPont decides he wants to get into wrestling. He had a farm that he called Foxcatcher.
Yeah, a lot of bad stuff happened, John DuPont pulled up to Dave's house, pulled out a gun, and shot him. Took my happiness from me. I had that opportunity at UFC 9 to get my happiness back. And there's nothing you could do to stop me.
Oh, so many things over on UFC Fight Pass for you to sign up and check out. Go do that. Fight Lore, one of my favorite shows available for you on UFC Fight Pass. So many episodes of that. The one with Nick Diaz and Joe Riggs fighting in a emergency room. it's just phenomenal stuff. And as I mentioned before, earlier with Ray, ADCC, again, coming exclusively to UFC Fight Pass. Starting with the open tournaments, the worldwide trials, and of course, the big boy, ADCC 2024, the championship, live and exclusive on UFC Fight Pass. So please make sure you are signed up. And if you do so right now, you can actually save 30% over on UFC Fight Pass. You get the details when you check out over on the actual site, UFCFightPass.com. It's just good to be back tonight. I forgot how to press buttons and do multiple things. It's been a minute since we did this show back at UFC 282, and obviously getting it done tonight at or for UFC 283, which took place down in Brazil. If you miss any part of this, you can check it out on demand anytime over on the UFC Fight Pass Facebook page, or of course over on UFCFightPass.com. If you missed it, I had a pretty fun exclusive interview with Iron Mike Tyson to close out 2022, so you can get that on demand anytime as well over on UFC Fight Pass. I'll probably be back in a couple weeks. We got a UFC coming up first week of February. UFC hitting Perth as well next month, so you know the story. More extra rounds headed your way. For Ray Longo, I'm TJ DeSantis. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for going a few extra rounds on UFC Fight Pass.
This concludes our live broadcast of Extra Rounds.
Are we still on the air?
Watch the archive anytime on UFC Fight Pass or Facebook.com/UFC Fight Pass. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.